Hey guys, how you doing today? We're going to talk about great swords in New World. I'm going to talk about some legendary drops that you can get to get started with your greatsword build. So I do want to preface that these are what I think are the best legendary drop greatswords are. However, they are not necessarily best in slot. I think best in slot for greatsword is still being figured out. So when that gets more figured out, I'm going to kind of talk about that on a future date. So don't hop in the comments and be like, these aren't best in slot. Like, no, these, why would you get these? Or not, but these are, no. These are great swords that you can get started with your build to kind of be able to have you get a legendary great sword to be able to kind of progress until you get the materials and figure out what exactly you want on your great sword and can roll it. So again, we really want to preface, these are not supposed to be best in slot. They are the best legendary drops that you can get that you can then go farm and everything for free and not have to worry about getting asthma or getting this and that and actually crafting it, but just get something to get started as you progress in the game. Secondly, these are focused as a best for PvP to get started. So we're kind of not really focused too much on the PvE greatsword drops, but these are more for PvP, just something to get you started so you can start hopping in OPRs and arenas and duels and maybe even wars and start getting a feel and figuring out the weapon. So again, more of a PvP focus on this one. And now we're going to cover three that are dex focused and two that are strength focused in this video as well. So just something to think about as we look at this. So without further ado, we're just going to kind of go through them. I'm going to say what they are, say what perks they have and where they drop, and hopefully you figure out which ones you want to get and go get it. So let's get into it. First with the dex greatswords. The first of the Dexterity Greatswords is Torrent, which has Refreshing Move, Leeching Crosscut, and Refreshing on it. Now this is nice because Refreshing Move, I still think, kind of similar to Great Axe at the moment. I think Refreshing Move is going to be the move for a lot of Greatsword builds. It has a lot of stuff, like it just kind of provides a lot of capabilities with your abilities, for the fact that you'll be able to get the cooldowns from your auto attacks, and the Greatsword has long cooldowns, and you pair that with the Refreshing, and this is going to be nice to be able to get like a lot of your abilities often have really shorter cooldowns with your abilities to be able to, get them off more. And then you pair that with the Leeching Crosscut, which many people think Leeching Crosscut is actually really strong. I've seen a lot of stuff. If you actually, if you haven't watched Crotha's new video, I'm not sure you pronounce his name, he did a Dracula build for the Great Sword, and it's all focused on stuff like this with like Leeching Crosscut and everything. So and just kind of getting health back on these abilities. So really strong, really strong perk to kind of get going, and another great start for dexterity. And this one drops off of the Leviathan of the Deep. Now the Leviathan of the Deep is a level 66 corrupted boss up in Shattered Mountains. Specifically, he's over in the mine of Shattered Mountain. Next for dexterity, we have Shivering Stance. You get Shirking Frost, Keenly Empowered, and Refreshing Move. So, again, this is kind of pairing up the mentality that you're going to be looking for similar things that you look for in the Great Axe and the Great Sword. And what I mean by that is that a lot of times for like Great Axe, like the move was like Vicious, Refreshing Move, and then like a ability modifier. So you're Shirking Frost, you're Chains, whatever. So in a similar mindset, you get the Refreshing Move and Shirking Frost off of this, which is really nice. The additional damage from the ice, all that stuff. And then you also get Keenly Empowered, so you get more empowerment for 5 seconds, which is nice because it pairs well with the Greatsword, which already gives you some empowerment from the perk. So it's a nice pair to kind of work with that and works together in terms of kind of the dodging and everything. This one you're supposed to get from Artifacts Fatum. Artifacts Fatum is a level 66 boss in Shadow Mountain and Murkgard. Lastly, for dexterity, we have Tough Times, which is a thwarting strikes, keen and refreshing move. Great sword. I already talked about refreshing moves. I'm not get too into that. Keen, obviously, the higher crit chance is really nice. It's not the keen is not necessarily a necessity on weapons. Usually, people go vicious and try to get keen awareness on like the jewelry, but in this case, you could go keen if you don't have other sources of crit chance. You just slap on your weapon, and you also get thwarting strikes, which you get additional damage while you have active crit. Now, it's kind of sad, like thwarting strikes isn't necessarily the best with dex builds. It's usually used with like strength builds because of the guaranteed crit with 300, but it is there if you have other ways to kind of work it in with that, and then you still get the keen and refreshing move. But I think the other two are better than this. But either way, You get this from Cache of Garden of Genesis armaments, which is basically the caches from doing the Genesis expedition. Now on to strength great swords. There's two that I think are pretty decent to get started. I wasn't really too much in love with a lot of the great swords for strength from legendary drops, but there are two that are decent, just kind of get you started. They actually aren't too bad or too hard to get, and so you can definitely kind of go and get these, and it's not too rough, and just be able to kind of rock it as you get your materials, be able to craft and actually roll for an actual best in slot greatsword. And the two are the first one, the Berserker sword, which is actually a reference to Berserk. And you know that because first off, it's the Berserker sword, and then the description is a slab of stone that's good enough for cleaving demonic beast. So love the reference there because I'm a huge Berserk fan. However, this one is a keen, vicious, refreshing move. So again, it has a refreshing move we talked about, and then keen and vicious, crit chance, crit damage. No, in a perfect world, this would have a refreshing move, vicious, and then something else not keen. But to get started, I think this is really solid. It's basically a 2-perker. In terms of great swords, has a lot of no damage on it, and it's not too hard to get. You get it from Rogue. Rogue is a boss in the Tempest Heart dungeon. He is early on-ish into the dungeon. He is the large brute monster when you get into the cellar within the Tempest Heart, kind of relatively early on into it. It's that big brute, and then yeah, he has a chance of dropping the Berserker weapon. It's not too hard of a drop. It took me about 4 or 5 attempts to get it when I was actually trying, so definitely not too hard of a drop. If you want to just go spend the night, especially if there's ever a mutation knife for Tempest Heart, just go run it. I got a couple buddies. I did like 2 full runs, and a couple of us just did like a few times where we just ran, killed him, and then restarted, and we eventually got it. So it was not too bad or too hard at all. So definitely recommend that one. The other one is Dusk Tier. Now Dusk Tier is Relentless Freedom, Chain Void, and Keen. So the Keen and Chain Void is pretty nice. The Chain Void we talked about, kind of getting that damage perk. The Keen, again, I'm not the biggest fan of Keen on weapons, but it's still solid in case you want to get something. And then Relentless Freedom. When you activate Relentless Rush, you remove roots and slows, and you also increase its critical hit chance by 19%. So pair that with Keen, and you have a strong chance of critting on Relentless Freedom, which if you know how to twirl it, you can actually hit people twice. So it's actually decent damage for the Relentless Freedom, as well as getting a way to remove the roots and slows with everything, and then the Chain Void as well when you're attacking. So again, I don't think there's anything spectacular. I think the Berserker sword would be a bit better to just get going. But if you need something to use while you are kind of playing again, this is not a bad one. And then this one can be dropped from any of the named monsters in the Dynasty Shipyard Mutated. So again, this is just any named enemies in Dynasty Shipyard Mutations has a chance of dropping this greatsword. So, hope this is helpful for people who are getting into the greatsword builds and want to find something like a legendary that they can use. You're not looking to spend any gold on the market. I would recommend this. You're going to have a lot of people telling you this or that about best in slot for the greatsword. I think some people have valid arguments for what is best in slot on greatsword, but I don't think it's actually fully discovered yet. And so, in the meantime, until the meta kind of figures it out, if you don't want to go and spend gold and start rolling for something that might not even be a best in slot, then these are some good great swords to kind of help get you started in the meantime until you figure that out, get your materials, and actually are able to start rolling and get your best in slot weapon. And yeah, hope this was helpful, and I will catch you all next time. Peace out.